Hey everybody, welcome to Juiciest Games, episode 28. Starting out, we got the nut flush draw at the bottom left table. Gonna raise in position versus the donk bet. If villain calls, we can check behind the turn. If we bink our flush, we get to bet. I guess not a lot of terrible results from raising in position here. Guys, it's great to be back. Sorry I wasn't feeling too well for the past week, but back in the saddle, ready to make some great content. As always, if y'all haven't subscribed to my channel on YouTube, I would very much appreciate it. Have some exciting things coming within the next couple of months, so for sure don't want to miss out. Let's see, three ways with ace-8 off at the top left table. Feel like the small blind here is going to be leading out pretty light. Want to put some extra pressure on the one seat so that he can't raise us with his gutter balls, with a lot of his air. Likely to be beating the two seat as it is. We could have bet the turn to get value out of his eights, to put some pressure on his gut shots, and then check back on the river. As played, that 10 on the river is just exceptionally bad. With villain betting pot, it seems kind of strange for him to take that line. Very likely that he had a tray and turned trips. His pot size bet on the river definitely indicates strength. For sure going to be mostly value. There's really nothing he could have that didn't make a pair with the 10 on the river. So maybe he does have some jack nines and binked his gut shot. Looks like this is a relatively new session. At the top right table, looks like the 5 seat's going to be a fish. At the bottom right table, can't really tell anything about anybody. The 5 seat there's obviously going to be a fish, but he has very little money in front of him. Bottom left table, 2 and 3 seat going to be short stacking fish. And the top left table, the 2 seat on our direct right is going to be great value. The 5 seat's playing with the weird stack, the 6 seat. So we have some pretty good spots at our games, along with what's likely to be a decent amount of regs. Going to be opening the button at the top left table very liberally. Small blind is not playing very many hands, so don't think we're going to be facing a lot of resistance from him. Big blind likely to be a fish. He's going to play too many hands. We're going to be able to play in position, leverage that against him, make great decisions, and play very profitably. So just have to be raising the buttons in these situations. Flatting with the 9s at the bottom left. Really no point in 3-betting. We get a lot of his worse hands to stay in the pot, his ace-x suiteds. Even if he has a hand like king-queen suited that doesn't fold versus a 3-bet, he's going to have position. Villains likely have uncapped ranges when they're flatting 3-bets in a spot like this. It's become way too common for villains to be flatting aces and kings to be able to just 3-bet and then barrel. Villain raises our donk bets small. This to me indicates strength. It indicates he could have an overpair. He could have some flush draws with overcards. Either way, we're not doing very well. Can't really continue. We have a lot of sets in our range that we're donking out with. We have some big draws. 9s is one of the weaker hands that we donk with, so we can fold pretty comfortably. I think oftentimes it's going to be a mistake to put in too many bets post flop. in a spot like that. We're facing an under the gun raise. We have a somewhat marginal hand, and he just has tons of value. Limp raising the 9-10 off at the bottom right table. Our 3-bet is somewhat high. We are also somewhat new. Don't really know how Villain's going to interpret our limp raise. I get crazy in this hand. I specifically remember it just because I decided to go ham. For whatever reason, I felt like the 4-seat was going to be 4-betting us pretty light. So I opted to 5-bet bluff with 100 big blind stack. Looking at it now, I don't think it was the greatest of plays that I've ever made. No reason to be balanced with our 5-betting in a spot like this. As it is, this was just something got stuck in my head, and I reacted. Very small bet on the flop. I think we bet most of our range with a tiny bet just like that. Hopefully the turn goes check check. I think the 4-seat's going to be calling with his ace kings. He's also going to be calling with his pocket pairs. At this point, after we 5-bet, after we've played the hand the way that we've played it, really nothing we can do on the river besides jam. We're going to have a ton of ace kings in our range here. We're going to have aces full a lot of the time. From Villain's perspective, it's going to be really hard for him to find a call with kings or queens, which comprises those hands probably comprise most of his range. Kings through jacks, I would say, are pretty much the only hands he's going to have at this point. Villain does fold, and feel like we kind of got away with one there. We put ourselves in a spot where Villain's just calling with all dominated hands. Villain's not bluffing a ton over the limp raise. Bailed out by an ace high board. Limping with 9-10 suited. We could raise versus the early position limper. I have been seeing, though, that guys have been limp raising a lot lately. It's kind of a strange thing to just somewhat, it just popped up overnight. All of a sudden, guys just regular looking stats are limping and limp raising. And in my opinion, if players are isolating these limpers too lightly, the limp raise isn't the worst of plays. I know it's very unorthodox, it looks very fishy, but if we're putting regulars in spots where they can't interpret our range correctly, and they're not going to adjust correctly, and they're leaving themselves susceptible to being exploited, then that's just not a bad place to put other regs. Sometimes it requires a little outside the box thinking, and I have to say I haven't started doing it yet, but I'm intrigued by the concept of it, and I see the merit. 3-betting with ace king off at the top right, pretty easy 3-bet. Gonna be hard to stack Villain on ace queen 9. Need to get 3 bets from them. Does ace jack give us 3 bets? Probably. But does Villain have a lot of ace jacks in his range? Not sure. I think we can check back this board pretty comfortably. Have to say, I much rather would have checked back the ace king, set it up to where Villain's whole stack isn't threatened. Maybe we get a bet from some of his random bluffs because he's thinking that, we check back kings or jacks or tens. Folding the ace jack off to under the gun +1 nit. Seems pretty standard. Wish we could play the 6-7 suited, but the big blind is just has 10 big blinds, so what can you do? Shouldn't be raising very much from the button here with the super short stack in the big blind. Gonna be raising pretty much ace-x and be forced to get it in. Ace-9 should be an open. Interesting that the button flats and opens a squeeze opportunity. We opted to isolate, thinking that the 4-seat probably has some sort of marginal king, queen, king, jack, king 10 type hand that will happily call the all-in from the short stack, but didn't really want to 3-bet himself. I think with the top of the 4 seats value range, he's going to be 3-betting us and not just flatting us on the button, so the isolate there I can get on board with. Happy about that play. The 9-10, happy about the result. Probably not so happy about the long-term equity play. Bottom right table doesn't look very good. Looks to be 4 regulars messing around with each other. Lately I've been putting in the morning shift around 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pretty sure I play against the same regulars on a day in and day out basis. Very nice getting ace king in the likely one hand that I play heads up with the 4-seat. Probably going to look at our 3-bet with suspicion, flat with a lot of hands that we dominate, 4-bet with a lot of hands that we dominate, or just fold. And that is the end of that table. Looks like we're jumping on a 3-6. Going to be tough to play the 8-9 suited to a short stacks, cut off open. If he's a full stack, we can 3-bet, we can do some stuff. Looks like at the 3-6 table, the 3 seats, not a full buy-in, probably going to be some value there. Hopefully the 1 seat is some great value as well. Gonna flat on the button with the 6s versus the short stack. Getting odds to flop a set. Also have the potential to pull in one of the blinds. They're unlikely to squeeze, I would imagine, versus a short stack, because just so easy for the short stack to pile in over the top of a squeeze, especially if they perceive it to be light. So I would think that squeezes are going to be pretty straightforward. Guys are going to be squeezing probably ace queen plus and 10s plus from the blinds. Against this particular villain, I think we should have not bet the flop. We should have just checked it back, like good little girls. Check back the flop. Likely to be a flop that gives him a pair, a gut shot, something like that. We're going to face resistance with our sixes. I mean, let's face it, our sixes aren't a very good hand. We don't have a ton of equity. Better to just check behind, try to realize our little gut shot or make it set, than betting and hardly ever getting folds and just going to showdown. Should be flatting the 3-bet with the ace-jack at the top right table. Even though villain is pretty nitty over 13 hands, it's 13 hands. Anything can happen over that short of a sample size. Okay, so cold open to 78 at the bottom right. That's not very good. Obviously was trying to raise at the top right. The raise at the top right went through. No idea what to do at the bottom right table if one of the players re-raises me with ace queen. What's funny is I'm not even sure that I realized that I did that at the bottom right table in real time. That's my first time actually seeing that. Villain betting 20 into 56, giving us great odds to bluff. We can risk 76, blocking Jack 10 and Ace 10, having some backdoor equity, some equity, making an ace on the turn. Just going to be a great spot for us to raise and pick up the dead money. If villain really wants to put us in a bind there, if he's aware that because he gave us such a great price to bluff, we're just going to go ahead and pounce, take advantage of that, then villain can develop a bet 3-bet range there that pretty much crushes our soul. But luckily not many players are really thinking on that level to induce a flop raise so they can bet 3-bet bluff profitably. So not much to worry about. Going to be flatting the ace-7 suited or just folding it. I think we should have flatted, especially because the 3-seat looks to be fishy. Probably going to be 4-way action. Not really much of an indicator that the 3-seat's going to be squeeze heavy once we do flat. If the 3-seat is squeeze heavy, then flatting there becomes a much dicier proposition. Top left table, guys just jamming in $60. Pretty easy to play poker when short stacks are just jamming it in. Wait for a hand and hope to hold. Look to be going for a limp raise with the 7-5 suited. Can't imagine I would be doing anything different versus villain with these stats. Going to be raising out of the blinds pretty often. We haven't 3-bet yet. Foils are planned by checking, so we just flop a pair and bet a little bit, take it down. Going to be opening my suited 1 gapper at the bottom right, opening the ace-10 at the bottom left. If the cutoff raises, should be flatting with the ace-10, not 3-betting, keep a lot of his dominated hands in the pot. 7-5 suited, going for a 4-bet. Not much information on villain other than he's in the small blind, hasn't 3-bet yet, has only raised 1 hand. Going to be a very likely 3-bet bluffing spot for the villain, so nice to have 4-bet bluffs in there. Ace-9 suited at the top right, going to be a flat versus this particular villain. We could 3-bet. I don't think 3-betting's the worst. He's stealing 75% of the time. Flatting's okay as well. Guys, I think this is a good time. If y'all haven't joined my newsletter at my website, enhanceyouredge.com, I have closing in on 20 videos in the video vault. Be sure to check those out. They're just sitting there waiting for you guys to watch them. I'll be adding one new video on Monday. Also get access to my newsletters. Really take a lot of time writing, trying to do my very best to provide value for my audience in my newsletters. So I take a lot of pride in that. Basically, it's a no-lose proposition. Good news, 3-seat limping under the gun at the bottom right table. Bad news is we flopped a middle pair with our piece of cheese, Mr. A Deuce off. We can 3-bet the Ace-4 off. We're playing like a mega nit at that table. Built up some vig to 3-bet. Not taking advantage of it. Feel like we should. Sometimes when you're playing a session, you can feel like a maniac. You can feel like you've just been 4-betting and 3-betting out of control, but statistically at the top left table, I have not 3-bet there one time. VP is 17, pre-flop raise 10. Just, I need to be taking advantage of my opponent's perception of me. And this is something that I think gets forgotten while we're playing poker. We're very aware of what our opponent's perception is of us. And so something that needs to be going through our head is what is, you know, our opponents know, our opponents are taking into consideration our perception of them as well. So if they've been playing nitty over 30 hands and we raise the button and he 3-bets for the first time, he can easily be 3-bet bluffing. He knows that we know he's been playing super nitty. He's built up fold equity himself. So I think those are a lot of places where you're going to surprisingly find some 3-bet bluffs from players who have played pretty tight over 30 hands and then all of a sudden 3-bet. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but this is how people think. It's also very hard to play hands like at the top left table when you have a guy over 38 hands playing half the hand, sitting around on a short stack, and you're just not getting very many value hands. He's going to be involved in every single pot. You're going to have to make a pair to beat him. It's if you're not getting Ace-10, if you're not getting Ace-9 suited, pocket 6s, pocket 7s plus, then you're just not going to be able to play many hands. There's no other thing you can do but just fold. Ace-King at the top right. Good news, button is stealing 80%. Seems to be very fishy. Limps the button, which is interesting. And limp folds the button, which is also interesting. Would love to know what villain just had there, like a 10-7 off maybe. I I have no idea what kind of range Limp folds the button. Should not be opening the queen tray off, and there I go doing it just because a villain in the big blind. Queen tray off just isn't strong enough no matter what my silly stats are. Villain's going to be flatting way too often, or just 3-betting us. And that's a nice $8 that we burned. I don't think it's like an $8 mistake. It's probably like a $1 or $2 mistake opening the button with queen tray off. But still, the better play is just a fold and completely neutral result of $0 won, $0 lost. Opening queen jack suited on the button at the bottom left. Should be calling a 3-bet if I do get 3-bet. Are we calling all in if the big blind ships it? Not sure. Very happy that he did not ship it. Spot like that, probably better opening 3x versus a big blind that short stack. Makes the decision to call all in. Very clear. Villain's going to know that. Puts a little bit more pressure on him. Or maybe villain doesn't know that and still thinks he has some fold equity. But either way, if we open 3x, just not going to be folding queen jack suited to 13 big blind ship. Ace jack off, 3-betting for sure. That's basically the nuts that we've been waiting for 50 hands. Not a very good flop, but not a very dangerous flop either. For sure, not folding to the 6 seat. Don't know if I really like betting out when we turn an ace. 6 seat can still rep an ace. Better to just check call, let his bluff stay in there. Ace is just going to be bad to get action from anyway. Kind of weird to say that we would almost rather not make our hand just to let the villain continue to bluff, but kind of the case. Jack is great. A jack is pretty much the nuts. We're never folding it on pretty much any turn to villain's bet, by the way. He's just going to fire way too often there. And ace jack is just too strong on a 4-4-6 rainbow. If if he has a 6, if he has a 4, then God bless him. He gets a double up. $9-10 off at the top right. Versus super fishy villain, we can peel here. We can fold too. I kind of like peeling. I like playing pots against the fish, as many as I possibly can, especially when the 2 seat is playing pretty nitty, seems unlikely to be super squeeze happy. We got a glitched table. I do remember that happening. So occasionally when Bovada software just randomly glitches. Can't that window, I can't click on it, I can't move it, I can't do anything. It's just basically stuck the way it is. So guys, we got about 47 seconds left. Hope everybody's enjoyed this episode. Gonna see you guys on Monday in the video vault. As always, if you have any questions, just send me an email, brad@enhanceyouredge.com, post on the forums on enhanceyouredge.com. And everybody have a great weekend. Be safe, have fun, enjoy the nice weather while it lasts, and y'all just take care. All right, until next time.